Swimming or running? Which one burns more fat, builds better stamina, and truly boosts your health? The answer might surprise you. In today's video, we're diving into the ultimate fitness face-off, swimming versus running. Whether you're looking to lose weight, protect your joints, or improve your heart health, we've got you covered.
All right, let's dive right into a question almost everyone's probably wondered about at some point. What's the single best exercise to tackle that stubborn belly fat? You know, when you picture losing weight around the middle, what comes to mind? Is it hitting the pavement or gliding through the pool?
Yeah, it's a classic comparison.
Totally. And one of you actually sent us a whole stack of sources asking this exact thing. Is swimming or running better for losing belly fat?
It is such a good question. And honestly, there's way more nuance here than you might think just looking at it. We've got research studies, some systematic reviews, expert opinions. It's a real mix.
Okay.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack all this, see what the science actually says about swimming and running, specifically how they impact, body composition and fat loss.
And hopefully help you understand what might actually matter most for your own situation.
Exactly, because spoiler alert, it might not be a simple answer.
And the sources do remind us, focusing on that fat around your middle, it's not just about aesthetics, is it?
No, absolutely not. These sources really highlight that being over fat, especially with visceral fat, that's the stuff, deep around your organs, often indicated by bigger waist size, it isn't just cosmetic.
Right.
It's flagged as a serious independent risk factor for things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even some cancers. So understanding how exercise affects this specific area, that has real health weight behind it.
Okay, so before we start comparing, let's just quickly define terms. What do the sources mean when they talk about body composition?
Yeah, good point. Simply put, it's the percentage of your body weight that's fat versus everything else, muscle, bone, water, often called lean mass or fat-free mass.
Okay.
For most people aiming for health or fitness changes, the goal isn't just weight loss, it's fat loss, ideally while keeping or maybe even building that lean muscle.
Got it. Fat weight versus lean weight.
Yeah.
And where that fat is matters, especially around the waist.
Precisely. That distribution is key for health risks.
Okay, let's build the case for running first. What do the sources tell us about its general impact? Body composition, fat loss.
Well, running is, widely seen as great for improving overall body composition. It definitely boosts cardiovascular function, your cardiorespiratory fitness.
It's pretty well established.
Right. One meta-analysis we looked at supports these general benefits pretty strongly. And another source, in a sensitivity analysis, even found a favorable effect specifically on BMI, body mass index.
And what about the big one for fat loss, calorie burn? How does running stack up there?
This is often where running seems to have a notable edge, at least per minute of exercise.
Okay.
One expert, citing Mayo Clinic estimates, basically says running burns roughly 40% more calories than swimming if you're doing them at the same intensity.
Whoa, 40% more per minute. That sounds like a lot.
It is a significant difference, yeah. But it also highlights just how much effort is involved in burning substantial calories through exercise alone.
What do you mean?
Well, another source gives this really concrete example. Jogging at a pretty moderate pace, like a 12-minute mile, that burns about, 9.19 kilocalories a minute.
Okay, 9-ish calories a minute.
Right. Now, think about losing, say, 19 pounds of fat. That's roughly 66,500 kilocalories you need to burn more than you eat.
Wow. Okay, big number.
Yeah. And that same source calculated that if you only ran 3 times a week for 30 minutes at that 12-minute mile pace, just the running, it would take over a year to burn enough calories for that 19-pound loss.
Over a year, running 3 times a week, just for 19 pounds.
Yeah.
That really puts things in perspective.
Doesn't it? It hammers home that exercise, while absolutely crucial, isn't usually a magic bullet for major fat loss on its own.
So diet's got to be part of the equation.
Oh, absolutely. The sources definitely back that up. One explicitly showed that combining exercise with diet, much more effective for losing fat while holding on to muscle than just diet alone.
Makes sense. And running does have that convenience factor, right? Low equipment needed.
True. Shoes on, out the door. Pretty accessible for many people.
Okay, let's switch gears. Swimming. Often called the ultimate full-body workout, right? That water resistance. What do our sources say about its effect on fat loss, especially that belly fat?
Swimming definitely has fantastic overall benefits, great full body workout because of the resistance, like you said. And one broad review mentioned it can improve overall body composition and blood lipids, similar to running.
Plus, you can mix up the strokes, add variety.
Exactly. Different strokes work muscles differently. So general benefits, clear.
Is it better for belly fat? Because this is where the sources start to get really interesting. Some conflicting findings pop up, don't they?
They certainly do. It's not straightforward at all when you dig into specific studies on swimming and body fat.
Okay, lay it on us. What did they find?
All right, so study number 1 looked at young, healthy women. They did swimming training 3 times a week, 60 minutes a session for 12 weeks.
Okay, pretty standard setup.
Right, and get this, at the end, they found no significant changes in overall body composition stuff, like total fat mass or fat-free mass.
No change in total fat after
Okay.
3 months of swimming 3 hours a week.
Essentially, statistically significant for the group overall. What did change significantly was their hip circumference that went down. And because their waist circumference didn't change much, their waist-to-hip ratio actually went up.
Huh. So shape changed a bit around the hips and waist ratio, but the total amount of body fat didn't really shift.
Exactly. The study authors sort of interpreted that waist-to-hip ratio change as maybe a positive trend in fat distribution. But yeah, overall body fat levels pretty much stayed the same for that group.
Okay, that's counterintuitive maybe.
Mhm.
What about other studies?
Well, contrast that with another study. This one looked at trained competitive swimmers. They were following a traditional periodization training program in, structured phases, often starting with high-volume aerobic work.
Right, serious athletes, serious training.
Yeah, and over 14 weeks, this study did find a significant decrease in their overall fat mass, about 10.6%.
Ah, okay. So a totally different result. Why the difference do the sources suggest? Is it just that they were trained athletes versus like regular healthy women?
That seems to be a huge factor, yes. The sources point towards participant type trained versus untrained, and also, critically, the specifics of the training program.
Like the intensity and structure.
Exactly. A periodized plan for competitive swimmers is a whole different beast than general fitness swimming 3 times a week. The volume, the intensity, it's all likely much higher and more targeted.
Okay, that makes sense. So athlete training gets results. What about people maybe starting out with more body fat? Does swimming help them?
Good question. We have another source, a study on obese children and adolescents. They did primary swimming training for 8 weeks.
Right.
And that study found a significant decrease in overall body fat percentage, total fat mass, and their BMI.
Interesting. So for kids or teens starting with obesity, swimming did seem effective for fat loss in that time frame.
Yes. It really suggests that your starting point, your initial fitness level, your body weight status, could play a pretty big role in how your body responds to swimming in terms of changing body composition.
So the results really seem to depend on who is swimming and how they're swimming. Is there any, general caution flag raised about swimming for fat loss in these sources?
There is, actually. One source discussing general exercise guidelines flat out mentioned that some research on general swimming programs shows a, quote, very poor fat loss record.
Wow, very poor. Why would that be?
Well, this source suggested a few potential reasons. Things like the cooling effect of the water, maybe it subtly affects metabolism or even appetite signals. Also, the horizontal body position compared to upright running, and maybe using smaller prime mover muscles, like the arms being key in many strokes, compared to the big leg muscles doing a lot of the work in running.
The cooling effect, the body position, those are details you don't often hear discussed. Fascinating.
Yeah, it adds layers of complexity, doesn't it? The source also suggested that maybe water-based programs specifically for weight loss need longer durations, perhaps at least 45 minutes per session, to be really effective.
Okay, longer sessions might be needed. But what about water activities specifically targeting that belly fat area? Does anything address that directly?
Ah, yes. This brings us to a really key finding, super relevant to the original question about belly fat. There's a meta-analysis we looked at that focused specifically on water aerobics.
Okay, not lap swimming, but water aerobics. What did it find?
What's really interesting here is that this review found moderate certainty evidence that water aerobics specifically helps reduce waist circumference.
The waist circumference.
Yeah,
So, a direct measure related to belly fat.
exactly. A direct indicator of central obesity. The review found moderate evidence it helps reduce waist circumference and overall body weight.
Okay, that's a really important distinction then. Lap swimming studies. Kind of mixed results on total fat mass. But water aerobics. Evidence points towards shrinking the waistline.
Precisely. It really highlights the nuance we keep talking about. It suggests that not all water activity is created equal when you're looking at specific outcomes, like waist size versus overall fat percentage. Lap swimming for speed or endurance might stress the body differently than a water aerobics class focused on resistance and movement variety.
So let's try and bring all this together. We've got running, we've got swimming laps, we've got water aerobics. If someone's main goal is losing belly fat, what does this mix of evidence really tell them?
It tells them the answer isn't a simple pick this one, it's just not that clear cut based on these sources. The evidence is nuanced, like we said.
Right.
The type of activity matters even within the water. Who you are matters trained, untrained, starting weight. How you train matters structured plan versus general swimming. It all seems to influence the results pretty significantly.
Okay, so running seems to have that edge in burning more calories per minute, generally speaking, which is key for overall fat loss, right?
Yeah.
And belly fat is part of overall fat.
That's a solid point for the total energy balance side of things. Yes, running might get you to a calorie deficit a bit faster per minute of exercise time. But while those general lap swimming studies had, mixed results on total fat, and one source even called its record poor for fat loss in some contexts,
Yeah.
that meta-analysis specifically on water aerobics gives us moderate confidence that it can be effective for reducing waist circumference.
So if targeting the waistline, that belly area, is the absolute top priority for someone,
Then based specifically on that meta-analysis finding within our sources, water aerobics looks like a really strong contender to consider.
okay. And regardless of the choice, running, swimming, water aerobics, what's the common thread for actually seeing results according to the source?
Oh, consistency, absolutely vital. It came up again and again, implicitly and explicitly. One source recommended aiming for a pretty significant amount of cardio for sustained weight loss, like 60 to 90 minutes, maybe 5 or 6 days a week.
Oh, it's a lot.
It is. Or at least 3-4 days a week at a higher intensity or duration. It just takes consistent effort over time.
And as we saw with that running calculation, exercise alone often isn't enough for big changes.
Exactly. Exercise combined with dietary changes is consistently shown to be the better strategy for losing fat while trying to keep muscle. That combo is key.
Right. And always smart to check with a doctor before starting something new.
Definitely. Always a good idea.
So wrapping this up, why should you, the listener, care about all these different study results, the nuances, the sometimes conflicting findings?
Because it gives you the real picture. There isn't one magic bullet exercise. These sources show that your specific goal is shrinking your waistline. One review points towards water aerobics as having evidence for that.
Okay.
If your focus is purely maximizing calorie burn per minute to contribute to overall fat loss, running seems to have an advantage there. And crucially, your starting point matters. Your fitness, your weight, how you structure your training, it can all change the outcome you see.
So understanding these details helps you make a more informed choice for yourself, rather than just picking one based on common wisdom.
Precisely. It helps you tailor your approach to your body, your goals, your circumstances, based on what the actual research in all its complexity suggests.
This deep dive really underscores that complexity, doesn't it? Both running and swimming, in their various forms, offer huge health benefits that can impact body composition. But the specific evidence for targeting belly fat, it's nuanced, depends heavily on context, activity type.
Indeed. It's far from a simple A is better than B conclusion here.
Which leaves us and you with maybe a final thought to chew on. How much does a specific form of an exercise really matter? Like within water activities, think about structured lap swimming versus a general water aerobics class. How much did that difference impact specific results, like waist size versus overall body fat percentage?
And tied to that, how much does your own starting line, your current fitness, your weight, your training history realistically shape the results you can expect from choosing running or choosing some form of swimming? Thinking about those specifics, based on what these sources hint at, might just help you find the approach that truly works best for you.